Well, thank you so much for joining us. I am Katie Eaton. I'm the president of the Michigan City Chamber of Commerce. And today with us on our Business and Community Series, we have the mayor of Michigan City, Duane Parry, joining us to give us some reflection on his year in 2020 and then also to look at some opportunities and some goals for 2021 as we move forward and wrap up this year. Thank you so much, Mayor, for being with us today.
Well, good day, Katie. Thank you for asking me to join you.
Yes.
For your viewing audience that I have not met, my name is Duane Parry. I am a native Michigan City and third generation to be exact. My family were small business people. You'd have to have gray hair like me to remember the name Parry's Bakeries. My family at one time when Michigan City was 44,000 people owned 3 bakeries in Michigan City. So we were well-established small business members. As I said, I grew up here. I went to local high school, Isaac C. Elston, graduate 68. Went on to Purdue University, spent some time in the military, United States Navy, 1968 to 74, and during the Vietnam era, and graduated from Purdue in 74 after finishing my reserve duty. In the School of Civil Engineering and Construction Technology. My career before returning home to settle in 2006 was with Fortune 500 engineering and construction international companies, the largest being Bechtel Corporation, who is our largest defense contractor. I joined Bechtel in 2002. I was living in the state of Washington, trying to help out with my dad's health care after my mother passed. Yeah, I joined Bechtel out there, and it was a monumental turning point in my career because of the size of the company, the demands that they make of their employees, the professionalism that they exude. And after my dad passed, I came back to Michigan City, 2006. Took a look at this way Michigan City was and what it is now and what I believe it can be. And in 2012, I got involved in public service, running for office. I was a 5th Ward councilman. At that time, the 5th Ward was from Springland Ave all the way down to Cool Spring, and from Carroll Ave over to Vale, and then from Cleveland on the south to Franklin. And I decided very shortly that to make the impact that I really feel I can make, I needed to be sitting here where I'm today talking to you. Since becoming mayor, I've changed some of the priorities of Michigan City. First off, we inherited a budget shortfall. I'm very proud to say that we were able to rectify that without having to take out any loans. We have just finished the 2021 budget, and many times communities our size will have to take out what they call tax anticipation loans, because we draw our property tax money twice a year from the county. We draw it in May, and then we draw it again in November. And during those periods that we don't have it, from January through the end of April, and then from June to the end of November, the cities have to live on their own revenues. And we've been able to generate a budget that we won't have to do that. I'm very proud of that. When I took office, the city was in the vicinity of $70 million in debt from bonds that we had floated that we've sold. That's just a common term, floated. When you want to do a project, you will sell a bond, which is a backed investment, and that gives you money to do the project. Well, Michigan City is, in past years, has financed many, many projects with bonds. And I said that we're going to start paying our bonds off and financing with our reserves, which we will do in the future. We're not there yet, but we will do it in the future. Changing those type of priorities, in addition to paying the outstanding bonds off, that we're moving in that direction. And what that helps you to do is, let's say we have the Northeast TIF district that was created around GAF to help them expand. Now their expansion is complete. and there's no longer a need for that TIF district. Now it's accumulating property tax money that needs to go into the general fund to strengthen us. And we have a few more payments to close that bond out, and then we will be closing that TIF district out. And along those same lines, we've had several projects that have not come to fruition, probably the most noticeable one being the former site of the Memorial Hospital on Pine Street. That stalled because the previous administration had brought a developer in that did not have the resources to do the project. I haven't done many commercial projects in my career. Primarily my career, when I mentioned Fortune 500 companies, it was building heavy industrial plants, primarily oil refineries, power plants, and I've done a few steel mills. And in that area, you don't have a lot of buildings. It's all commercial. It's all industrial equipment. But moving on into that area, I said we are going to invite developers to the table that they have the resources. They can bring finance people, and if it's a necessity to sell bonds, then they will take care of that, and they will incur the liability. And our stake in the game is we have the land. We give them the land, and it doesn't hurt us because the land is not currently on the property tax rolls. So we're activating this land, which will bring it back to taxable. And then when the development is done, we have even more valuable land that will benefit the city.
Can you talk a little bit about the intentions of that property specifically? So we're talking about the old Memorial Hospital site, which is on Pine Street in between 4th and 5th and 6th Street.
Yeah.
The intentions with that is apartments, some mixed retail. What's the significance of that project, and how important is it to get that going?
Well, that's one of the cornerstones of the downtown area. We have several developers that have visited Michigan City that are interested in moving into Michigan City with projects, and that is one that has a high level of interest. We're looking at multifunctional facilities there, apartments, possibly condos, possibly townhouses. We don't have anything signed on that yet, but we are moving forward with interviewing developers. Now, we do have one project that is moving forward faster. That's directly to the west of City Hall, the You Are Beautiful site. And that we have a memorandum of understanding in place with a developer to build condos there. Very upscale, very nice housing, which will definitely change the complexion of the north end of town. Last year, I relaxed the beginning of this year, I relaxed the stormwater fee that Michigan City was going to charge LaPorte County to do their courthouse project. That project would not be where it's at today if I hadn't done that. But I have a goal of unifying Michigan City, LaPorte, and LaPorte County. We all benefit from each other's success, and we all need to move together as a whole. And in that spirit, I made the fee go away. So now, as you can see, they broke ground. It's going to be a beautiful expansion when they're done. It's going to be a very attractive, along with our projects, the You Are Beautiful site project. We will be breaking ground probably in the next 24 months on the Pine Street apartments. We have interest in 7th and Franklin. I know some people will be disappointed. I feel that Michigan City is not the town at this time for an open plaza like we have there. I've seen other communities where it's been successful. They're more white collar than we are now. Rockville, Maryland, for one, where one of my sons live. That's a very white collar suburb of Washington, D.C. And there it was fine. It took off. This year, in Michigan City, I believe that location, there is enough room for both housing and an open plaza, but it'll be a smaller one. Yeah. And it'll be very nice housing going into that area.
So is that another opportunity for the city, which already owns the property, to negotiate that and use that as an incentive for developers by offering the land? Is that the intention?
Yes, that's how we do that.
Yeah.
And another parameter that I established that was not in place before. Originally, the Pine Street apartments were intended to be affordable housing. I feel that we have enough affordable housing in Michigan City, and especially in the downtown area. Everything that we build for the next 3 or 4 projects at least will be market value housing.
Yeah. So while we're talking about the north end, and these are significant projects that are under development for the north end and for the downtown, can we talk about the timeline for the double track project and what that looks like for Michigan City on 11th Street in that train station area?
Well, it's all coming together, Katie. It really is. The timeline for the double track is September of 2023. We just, within the last couple weeks, ironed out the final details on the station and the parking garage, which was critical. The double track itself had been resolved in 2016 between the council then under Tim Beatry, who was president, Ron Muir, who was mayor, but the details of the station and the parking were not yet in place. So we've got that now. I understand to the west, the Westlake corridor, that is finalizing. So as this all moves together and we create more housing in Michigan City, which I've realized since I first became familiar with this in 2012 when I was on the council, that it is absolutely a must. I still have what I consider a genuine concern about the double track, but that is limited to the amount of freight that we will see going through Michigan City. But I believe I've watched South Shore Freight locomotives on Amtrak up north. I've seen them on 11th Street, and I've seen them down on CSX by Ames Field. So I think that things can be done if the freight becomes an impediment to bringing the downtown back alive. I think we have avenues to address that. But we are going to see, people need to be aware that we are going to see more freight come through Michigan City, because as the Nipsco Lakefront Generating Station demobilizes and they break it down, NICTE is going to lose a major customer there because they hauled all the coal for the powerhouse. And they're going to have to backfit that business shortage with other customers, which will be more than likely to the east of us, like Honeywell, the 2 mini mills in New Carlisle, INTech and INCode. And then if they push to downtown South Bend, which I believe they really need to. Right now, stopping at the airport is so close, but not there.
So you talked a little earlier about the importance of collaboration with not only members of the county, but also working, alongside the city of LaPorte, the other city here in LaPorte County. And we know throughout this year and throughout the pandemic, we've had multiple conversations as community partners. Can you talk a little bit about the significance of, relying and having conversations with those other government partners as you've made decisions about what to do in regards to the pandemic for your constituents here in Michigan City? Maybe most recently, the joint decision that was made by the cities and the county council and commissioners.
Well, that's very important because as everyone knows, we never dreamt we would be in a situation that we are now. Whether we took it lightly to begin with or not, we're still here right now. We've got to do something to bring it to a close. And unifying with the city of LaPorte under Mayor Tom Dermody. Tom and I talk on a regular basis. I want Michigan City and LaPorte to move, the town of LaPorte to move together in harmony. And the county, it's necessary. We are in a very high incident rate. If you look at Indiana statistically, we're one of the highest rate states in the country in young smokers. Our behavior is very John Wayne-ish, I like to say. John Wayne is still alive and well. He's an American. He's everywhere. And we have to modify our behavior a little bit to get through this. And it's been difficult, but together with the county commissioners, the county council, and the city of LaPorte, I feel that we're doing that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the updates just within City Hall right now. What do the operations look like? How are they different right now with the pandemic? Are you open? Are you closed?
We've had to make a lot of changes. We furloughed when the pandemic first hit, and we had one case. We closed City Hall down for weeks and sanitized it, and then we took a look right there at what we had to do for the future to keep the visitors to City Hall safe from us and to keep us safe from the public. City Hall is still closed. It's by appointment only. We've had no issue with that. Inside the City Hall, the workers, we've gone to modified schedules. In my own office, I have two administrators, Janet Butner, Chris Shigelski, and they alternate working days because they're in such close proximity to each other. They're not over 5 or 6 feet apart. And because of that, we found it beneficial to stagger the work days. And that's pretty much what we've done throughout City Hall. We've changed the location of the meetings several times. I made the meetings virtual initially because we've got a beautiful council chamber, but it's very expensive to maintain. It has about 96 seats. They're all cloth. So to sanitize that space after every meeting, the 2 downstairs bathrooms, everything was very costly. So I closed the chamber, moved the meetings all over to Memorial Park, and I moved the park department. There were 2 offices of park department people in the lower level of City Hall. I moved them up to the main level. So now everybody is up here. We have no sanitization requirements in the lower level, and that's been very beneficial. Yeah. Now, since then, we have changed from, we became a little bit concerned at Memorial Park, and we moved the meetings over to the senior center, but everyone has to feel comfortable. And we had enough people on the city council and on a few other boards and commissions that felt uncomfortable that we went back to virtual meetings. And we will probably stay there until this thing winds down substantially.
Sure. And you guys have done a great job of keeping everybody updated, sending out communications. We get those regularly from Chris Yagalski, and they can always be found on the website as well as on your Facebook page at My Michigan City. So great opportunity to
Well, I've tried to stay in touch with the community also through Rick Federici and his WIMS program.
Yes.
Rick is the voice of the South Shore in the morning. And I've when we've had a real need to get information out, I've also been accommodated by WeFM, a special announcement type press release. So we're doing everything that we can to keep the public confident that we're going to make it through this thing. We've done very well. Out of the 4 Northwest Indiana counties, LaPorte has been the lowest incident rate, and we continue to really hold our own.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've done well, and I think that collaboration and partnership throughout the county is definitely what has contributed to that. So I want to turn a little bit to looking at the future. You mentioned and talked a little bit about the decommission of the Nipsco portion here in Michigan City and what that might look like. Talk a little bit about maybe your vision, your ideas of what you would like to see happen. And this is very long term, looking way ahead in the future. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I would love to see that developed commercially, but I've never fooled myself about who's going to be making the decisions there. Having worked for extremely large companies, I just hope to be in the room when Nipsco is making the decisions on what happens to that property. It's billion-dollar property, and it's going to be highly sought after. So I hope that I'm not going to try to impede Nipsco's project. by zoning, requirements. I hope it's a two-way conversation, and I'm going to do everything I can to support Nipsco to maximize the use of that lakefront, and hopefully we will be the primary beneficiary of it.
Yeah. So the city has some newly annexed areas in over on the, I guess, the east south side, just south of the airport there. And how are things coming along with that? What are projected plans in that area?
I'm very excited about that. We annexed over 400 acres. The last administration did. We annexed over 400 acres. We're going to extend our runway to 5,000 feet. It'll be something like when you go to O'Hara and you see a jet come in over the runway, over the road. And it's going to be an expensive project, but we've done extremely well. Jessica, our airport director, at obtaining funding for it. It's going to be 90% funded by the FAA, Federal Aeronautical Administration. So our involvement is going to be minimal, which at this point in time is very welcome to our ears. We will be able to accommodate jets, which hopefully will increase the attractability of Michigan City to more industry. We have a requirement. We already have water out there. We have a requirement to provide, when we annex an area, within 3 years, I believe it is, you have to provide water and sewer. And so we're working in the direction of getting sewer out there. We already have interest in that area, manufacturing. We're rezoning it so that it will support not only heavy but light industry and commercial. So we're zoning it as open as we possibly can to support that. We're really moving in that direction, and I'm really excited. It's my goal. There was some confusion after I took office. People asked me, well, what is your real goal? Is it tourism or is it industry? Because I said time after time that I'm going to reestablish a light industrial base in Michigan City, because not everyone has the interest or the credentials to work at Nipsco or Blue Chip or these entities. We've always been a blue collar town. That's been our backbone. And I don't want to be 100% a blue collar town. My interest in light industry is in addition to tourism. It's somewhat the icing on part of the cake. I promote tourism. We are a little bit limited because of our climate. We're not going to be a year-round tourism spot, but I have other ideas for that. It's my goal to make Michigan City a city of all seasons. I've said also that with what we have here, the lower cost of property, unfortunately, that's going up. Well, unfortunately, but good for property tax revenues. It's going up, but our larger lots, lower taxation structure, and our our services are great here. If for medical, educational, entertainment, what we don't have 50 miles away is in Chicago. And I think Michigan City should market itself as a retirement community. If we can create a community that's busy, that's full of activities for people of all ages year round, that can be done very easily. Before on my route back home, I took an interesting route. I was working at the place where we made the bomb that we dropped on Nagasaki to end World War II. And then after the war ended, the government continued to produce weapons-grade plutonium for our war weapons to the point where they had a lot of nuclear waste. And I was working out there for Bechtel, managing contracts to build a plant to process that nuclear waste. And when I finished out there, I bid on a job as an expediter. My dad had passed and I wanted to come home. So I bid on a job as an expediter, which put me on the road 5 days a week, going to businesses that were serving Bechtel on their various projects. And I was really fortunate. I drew two large manufacturers, both of them in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So for 22 months, I went back and forth to the Twin Cities every week for work. And what I noticed up there was an economy that is as recession-proof as you can get. Minnesotans were very good at building their economy, and they are an all-season community where in 2 winters up there, I never heard one person complain about winter. They shift gear from sport to sport, from season to season, and life rolls on. And I looked at that, and I said, we can be like that. And that's my goal.
Yeah, I like it. A city of all for all seasons. I think that's what all of us would like to see. I think many of our small businesses would love to see that as well. So I think that's good to hear. Speaking of small business, I want to talk a little bit about briefly the recent relief fund that was created by the city council and I think the Fighting Chance Fund. If you can talk about how that came about.
Well, that came about from COVID relief funds that we received. We received $1,009,000, and we monitored our money. We spent it where we needed to, and when we felt that we had covered all the avenues that needed covering, we had about $150,000 left. So I got in touch with Angie Nelson Deitch of the City Council, because Angie had talked about this. This was her project. Credit needs to be where credit is due, and this is Angie's project. And I said, well, I believe after talking to Yvonne Hoffmaster, who is our controller, who's done a marvelous job, Yvonne said, yeah, I think we can afford that. So Angie and I talked, and we decided to make that money available for small businesses. I believe Angie's plan is about $5,000 benefit packages. So for every $100,000, you get 20 of them. And that's a good number. I wish we had more, but we do what we can.
Yeah.
If more money becomes available, I will move it over there to help our businesses.
That's great. Yeah,
But
I know. Yeah, the businesses are very appreciative of that.
Let me add one thing. Talking about the future, what I have recently decided to do is I consulted our IT group and what they're doing. They've been working very hard installing fiber optics to tie all of our city facilities together. Central services over on Kentucky Street, City Hall, police, fire, the airport, the golf course, so that we cut the need to utilize outside contractors to satisfy our communication needs. And I took a look at what I had been told about fiber optics through Michigan City, that there are several data banks running through. So we looked at these, and we've decided that we're going to chase this. We're going to change our focus, buy some equipment to where we can tie into the most active, the most modern fiber optics bank going through Michigan City, and that will make us somewhat like an AT&T or a Comcast provider to new business to Michigan City. And I think that will really generate a lot of interest in our town and a lot of good jobs.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. So just one last question. What are you most looking forward to in 2021 for your administration and for Michigan City?
I would have to say solvency, because that's been hard, and we're not done with it yet. It was very difficult putting a stop to capital expenditures and raises, because people work hard and they need that. We've done some good things there too. We learned from our neighbors in LaPorte. Michigan City was running a pattern of buying approximately $500,000 every year of new police cars. And talking to our neighbors, they said, well, why don't you consider doing what we do? They lease. So instead, we've reduced our capital expenses from approximately $500,000 to about $50,000 a year leasing. We're going to bring in the same number of new cars every year, and they will be rotated on a lease. So every year we will be spending approximately $50,000 rather than $500,000, and that's been a big improvement. It's difficult, as we all know. Any of us that have been parents knows the hardest word in the English language to say, but we've had to say it. And we're probably going to have to continue saying it for another year or two until we can start to get back on board. You know, I'm so sympathetic to Blue Chip, because Blue Chip has been so good to Michigan City. They've been marvelous partners, but they've really struggled through this. We try to do everything we can. You've seen we put up signs rerouting traffic to Blue Chip when the Trail Creek Bridge was under construction. And now it's done. It's a beautiful structure. And then the very next thing we turn around and NICD tells us that they've got to close down the boulevard at 11th Street to do a crossing. So we ran out and got some more signs and rerouted the people into Blue Chip through 8th Street. So we're trying very hard to work with Blue Chip, and they in return have been very considerate and very good to us.
Good. Any final thoughts before we close out?
Well, I guess all I can say is people have stopped me and said, "You're doing a very good job." And I tell them, get ready, because the best is yet to come. You're going to see a lot of great things in the next 3 years. I think the people of Michigan City, and my goal as an overall goal is to change the future of the city. I'm 70 years old. I have 3 children. None of them live in Michigan City because there was no opportunity for them. And my goal is to keep future generations of Michigan City as home. That's where they belong.
Well, I thank you so much for your time today, and really appreciate talking with you and hearing about your vision for the future. And Michigan City is definitely strong, and we'll continue to see that. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And we will be stronger when we are done with this. We are Michigan City strong.